Hi everyone, welcome to Soulprint Pendulum Friday for May 30th. Oh my God, we are like half done the year. I don't even know how that happened. I swear. My brain, I think, sometimes thinks it's still February. Okay, so it's a really interesting question this week. And so we're going to take a peek at those and see what the pendulum has to say. Before I get there, I just want to take a moment and thank all of you who are here and who are enjoying Pendulum Friday. Thank you very, very much for the ongoing support. For anybody who might have missed it earlier in the week, I'm going to be attempting to put out 2 videos a week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday in there, because I want the bulk of the questions that are, put together for Pendulum Friday to be by and large compiled by Wednesday, as opposed to I put out a video on Thursday and then there's a whole bunch of questions on Thursday. As I mentioned before, I really want Joyce and Beth, because she's back online and going to be helping us do this. I want us all to just have a little bit of extra summertime, because summertime goes by fast and it's short. So that's kind of what's going on here. So you'll just have to bear with me as I sort of figure out what schedule works for me in doing that. I really do encourage you to hit the notification bell, because that way you'll be notified when video gets released. Okay, so, oh, by the way, anybody looking for a private reading, Dropbox below, soulprint888@gmail.com. Just send me out a request saying, you want some information, and I'll send you back everything you need to know. Okay, so, um, so this first question is it just has me a little confused, to tell you the truth. So the question is, do you see the court case about the 13-year-old that was abused by the orange ball bag in Epstein back in 94 coming out? Okay. And so there's thinking that this must be about that victim. Her name is Virginia. And unfortunately, she chose to depart this planet on in April. So I think it maybe just was all too much. This is the thing. I'm going to ask the pendulum, okay? But this is right now, there is nothing that's going to come out that is in any way, shape, or form going to look bad for 45. And probably by extension, some of his little playmates, because he has his thumb on the DOJ, and he has the U.S. Attorney General, Bondi, doing her tap dance. So if we're expecting any sort of recrimination, any sort of insight coming out, you don't even wait for it, because it's going to not take place, if it does, after he has departed the office. It's just as like, really. But let's just ask. So I'm just going to ask this as a yes or no. Will the court case about the 13-year-old that was abused, will that court case go forward? Okay, that's a no. I don't even know if there's a court case currently existing, but will information about what went on, or information pertaining to the abuse and the court case, will any of that information come out in the foreseeable future? Okay, that's also a no. Okay, will there be a strong hurricane this season that forms in the Atlantic and goes ashore in the Carolinas? Task, pendulum. I'm sorry, that's a yes. Would you please look at Nebraska and see what is going to happen with public school funding? small farmers. And will it stay cherry red or begin to turn purple? Okay, so I'm going to do this for a pendulum. So let's sort of rework these questions a little bit. Is the public school funding in Nebraska going to be adjusted or adapted to strong Republican values and ideals? Okay, it's a yes, but I got to tell you, it's not a very enthusiastic yes. Will small farmers be negatively impacted by policies and decisions made by state and or federal politicians pertaining to small farmers in Nebraska? And I'm sort of saying that's a yes. Are these events going to create the energy to cause Republican voters to reevaluate and pull away from the Republican Party? That's a yes. Okay, so sometimes I think I should pay more attention to what's going on. 2 weeks ago, 45 met with MBS and Jerry Injiroli or something in Saudi Arabia. So this Jerry guy is the CEO of some sort of a development authority. He showed them papers, and this Jerry guy and MBS, and MBS, as you know, is Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud. He is the de facto ruler of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In any case, the two of these guys, there were some papers, and they were laughing about whatever was on the papers, but 45 was not. These had been called the mystery papers. Were they of any significant consequence? I'm getting a no. So, this is the thing. A few years ago at one of the summits, somebody asked Trudeau where Trump was. And he sort of flippantly said, he's still giving a press conference because, there's an open mic. And that was it. That was the end of Trump having any tolerance, literally, for Trump or for Trudeau or Canada, honestly. So it wouldn't take much, I think is my point. Again, let's remember, he decided to run for president because Obama made a joke about him at that sort of annual dinner for the press. So he has such a thin skin that it wouldn't take anything for somebody to think it was funny and him to not be amused. So, there you have that. Oh, and so for all of you who maybe have missed it, Musk has officially left Doge, and he is marching himself back to Tesla to try and get that company back on track again. I just got to ask this question. It, is Elon going to actually be able to reverse the downward trend of Tesla? No. So then is it just safe to say that the damage has been done? Yes. Okay. Is Musk and or Doge, this was the actual question, I got sidetracked. Is Musk and or Doge hacking the air traffic control systems? And if so, will this be discovered and made public? Okay, let's break this down just a little bit. Are the air traffic control systems being hacked? Let's start there. That's a yes and not at all comforting. Is it the only thing that is creating the instability in terms of air traffic controllers and the information, flying pilots, etc.? Is that the only thing that's going on? No. Okay. Is the situation also being impacted by cuts and firings that were carried out by Doge and has left air traffic controllers exhausted with not enough staff? That's a yes. Okay. Is this information ultimately going to be made public? Knowledge of the actual hacking, the actual interference? That's a yes. All right. I would like to know if proof will be unveiled about Condon, sorry, rigging the 2024 election results in his favor with the help of EM and his Starlink satellites. Okay. Um, will that, okay, so let's ask, first of all, did that happen? Was there um, interference in terms of the actual results of the election? That's a yes. Was some of that interference coming from EM or any of his satellites? That's a yes. And let's not forget, people, this is for entertainment purposes only. Is that information actually going to be released, but released in a way so that it is almost unquestionable? Is that going to come out? Okay, so right now we've got a non-answer. Um, as I want to ask this question. Are people within the higher echelon of the government, whether that is agencies or people, are they aware? Is there an understanding or an awareness of what happened during the election in terms of the vote counting? Is there? They have ideas. Do they know what's going on? Okay, yes. So the reason I asked that, the next question, I will do that, is the next question is, will the USA be able to prevent this kind of cheating in the future? Okay, yes, that's good news. Is this something that's going to be rectified while 45 is in office? No. Mm-mm. Why would he? Like, really? And this is the danger of what's going on in the US, is that people who are supposed to be overseeing certain agencies, acting independently, are not. They are all flunkies of 45, and they will do what he wants, what he says, and it does not matter if they destroy themselves, their reputation, people, the country, they don't care, as long as they keep him happy. So he's not going to let anything surface that is going to shed a different light on the situation. Let me ask this just final question this way. Is there or are there currently outside sources, outside investigations not being handled by the government or governments that are collecting data pertaining to the results of the 2024 election? That's a yes. So I got to say, it sort of almost feels like you would be looking at independent sources as opposed to any sort of government or government agency. And that includes governments from other countries. They, again, may well know that there was something hinky that happened. But up until 45, there was an understanding that one country did not interfere with another country's election process. And so even though he chooses to completely ignore that, as does, Vlad, most other countries are still adhering by the sort of traditions and rules that exist to keep people outside of a country from impacting or interfering with what goes on inside a country with regards to their elections. Now that the plane has been accepted by the Pentagon, okay, I didn't know that happened, so that's interesting. Will it be outfitted in time for him to use as Air Force One while he is still president? No. No. Will he keep it as his personal property after he leaves office? No answer. Let me ask the question this way. Will he keep it as property connected to him through a business, an organization, or any sort of political affiliation? Yes. Could it be interesting what he does with a plane that is sort of not completely equipped to be Air Force One, but plane that should not have certain safety features or equipment if it's not Air Force One? Will 45's true health history be revealed after he leaves this world? Okay. So the pendulum is saying yes. What I'm hearing is that in some ways it's going to almost be like the JFK assassination information. It will come out, but it will be years down the road. It will not, as of right now, when and if it comes out, you're looking at ways down the road. It's not something that's going to come out within a year or two after he leaves this planet. Is there going to be any major fallout concerning him by September? So yes. Is spiritual work being done to remove that orange person? Okay. Yes. And I mean, of course, spiritual work would qualify under the light energy, the work that, we do, everybody does independently. And it also would have to do with higher beings, whether you want to see them as aliens or angels or divine beings. Um, there is a lot of energy that surrounds him to contain the worst of his impulses. Now, having said that, we always have to remember that the transition that the planet is going through vibrationally requires that a lot of the old habits, beliefs, patterns, structures, institutions be altered, changed, reworked, in some cases, gotten rid of and replaced. So it's important to understand that some of what is going on is part of what needs to unfold as the vibration shifts to a higher dimension. Now, having said that, and I think I've said this before, I'm not one of those people who is of the opinion that he is just happily going along, doing his, fulfilling his purpose here on earth. I'm not buying that, because this is how I look at things. Every day, every one of us has the opportunity to fulfill our purpose, to attain a higher good, a better result, make a better choice than we did yesterday or a week ago or a year ago. If all of us were simply wandering through our lives, doing whatever it was we intended to do, there would be, first of all, there would be no karma. There would be no consequences because everybody would be doing exactly what they were supposed to do. But more, you would not have a balance, or a balance that made any sense, because yes, you would still have good and evil, or light and dark, however you want to define it. But we don't gather the wisdom if we're simply going along following some predetermined agenda. For anybody who's done any listening to my work about Soulprint and the reason why it's called Soulprint, why my channel is called that, why I refer to it as that, it's like a blueprint that we set out in terms of what we want to accomplish in a lifetime, but it is forever and ever in flux because our decisions alter it and shift it. So I just don't happen to think that he's here doing, God's work. I think if anything, God, and find that however you want, is very busy trying to prevent him from um, his own worst impulses. So I believe that, yes, there's a lot of spiritual work being done, but I believe that the choices and the decisions that and he's not the only one. I mean, Netanyahu falls into this, Putin falls into this. Um, Hitler falls into that. Um, these are humans who make choices, and the consequences have far reaching ripple effects. And if if everything we did was exactly the way it was supposed to be, there would be no reason for a life review. There would be no reason to have to review what your behavior or your choices, for good or not, how that impacted the people that were impacted by it. It just doesn't make logical sense to me to say, yeah, well, it's fine. He's doing God's work. He's fulfilling his promise. We all come here with things that we want to accomplish. Making bad choices day after day after day is not, generally speaking, how we accomplish the things we set out to accomplish. enough of my little digression and lecture. Will 45 be found to be part of the Diddy case? I've been following that. Is he? Is there going to be anything there considering him? Okay, yes. All right, small yes. Is that going to have any significant impact or negative blowback for him at this time? No. Okay. Will the military parade happen on the 14th? I think, is that June 14th? I think it must be. Um, is that thing going to take place on the 14th? Okay, there's like a not an answer there. So I don't know what that's about. I'm assuming that everything is going forward because that's what he wants. But I guess we'll have to see how that ends up unfolding. Does he care that his pettiness and his revenge administration will be his legacy in this world? Okay, I'm just going to rework that. Does he understand that his pettiness and revenge administration is going to be part of his legacy in this world? Does he understand that? No. Does he believe that his legacy is going to be of a strong, forceful, intelligent businessman? Yes. That's a delusion he lives with. Um, Even when he's being petty, he absolutely feels that it is the correct and appropriate behavior because in his head, like nobody should get away with doing or saying anything that he doesn't like. Bottom line. So he feels that if they did and he reacts, then his reaction, his behavior is correct. It goes back to the whole Nixon thing, right? Anything the president does isn't wrong because the president did it. I mean, which is just a load of crap. But anyways, um, the 1,100-page big, beautiful bill, which puts into law the horrible ideas of Project 2025, is up for a vote in the Senate. Will this destroy our democracy? No. Will it pass in its current form? No. Will it pass with significant adjustments or alterations? Okay, right now that's a small yes. Apparently, EM has made a statement saying that a bill can either be big or it can be beautiful, but it cannot be both. And basically, this bill is somehow destroying the work that Doge was doing. Except as near as I can figure, all it's doing is amplifying the work that Doge was doing. So I don't quite getting that, but apparently EM has now said he's sort of done with politics. He's kind of finished with it. Well, it'll be interesting to see if that continues to be this his story. If Biden dies, knock wood, when 45 is president, will he be denied a state funeral? No. Um, he may try, but he will not succeed. Will J.D. Vance flee the USA if Trump passes away? Okay, so what we're getting here is a small yes. What I'm hearing is that if at all possible, he will attempt to ascend to the office of the president and continue to carry out the work of Project 45, Project 2025. But I don't think that will be successful for him. Are the majority of the people in the US, MAGA and non-MAGA, all hoping that Trump will somehow be removed from office? Okay, and we're just for clarity, we're going to literally do 50% plus one, right, for majority, because that word just sort of leaves a lot of open to interpretation. Are there more people now in the United States that want Trump out of office that then want him to stay in office? Yes. Will the entire Doge gang be ejected and their data mining be stopped and reversed? That's a yes. And will that data be secure again? No answer. The answer is it's going to take some work to secure it again. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, was working for the Trump administration and for Musk and Doge. It appears he is leaving the White House and she is leaving too. Is she going to work for Elon? As of right now, that's a yes. I've not heard any of that. Will she be spying on 45 the way by the way of her husband and informing EM? Um, we're not getting an answer there. It feels like um, if there's information that he really wants, he will have all kinds of ways to access it. So he doesn't necessarily need a through line, particularly one that is so direct. You can literally draw a straight line from Stephen Miller to Elon Musk if his wife Katie is in between the two of them, right? Um, does his own higher self, this is 45, does his own higher self agree with his shameful life experience? I'm assuming this is about 45. There's not a specific person attached to this. Um, how is Trump's higher self feeling that this life experience is a successful one from a spiritual perspective? No. And the other couple of words that came through were, but he's really good at not having successful ones. This isn't his first time around the block, people. And it isn't the first time that he has caused destruction and havoc, in his wake. Um, so there you have it. Thank you for being here today. It's the weekend. Do something nice to yourself and someone else. Take good care of yourself. Until I see you next time, be well. Bye for now.